Have you ever heard whispers from a time so ancient, so utterly beyond our grasp, that they feel more like echoes from a fevered dream than actual history? Conversations between gods and mortals, strange facts about flying machines in texts thousands of years old, or mysteries of weaponry that could level cities. It's a bit like finding a dusty, forgotten hard drive in your attic and discovering it holds the entire internet, but written in cuneiform. Tonight, we're not just reading history. We're diving headfirst into one of the grandest, most sprawling narratives ever conceived by the human mind. It's a story that asks profound questions about duty, destiny, family, and the brutal cost of war. Themes that, frankly, still keep philosophers and reality TV stars busy today. You might think you know what an epic is, but trust me, the Mahabharata redefines the word. It's not just a tale, it's a universe, a philosophy, a cautionary fable, and probably the reason ancient Indian bards never slept. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, if you're listening in, why not drop your location and local time in the comments? It's always wild to see where these whispers travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Our story, or rather, your story tonight, begins not with a bang, but with a deep, cosmic hum. Thousands of years ago, long before your ancestors even dreamed of inventing the wheel or the crucial technology that is the comfy sofa you're probably melting into. You find yourself standing on the fertile plains of what we now call northern India, a land bathed in the glow of a nascent civilization. This wasn't some barren wasteland. It was a patchwork of kingdoms, bustling with life, ideas, and a surprisingly complex social structure. Historians still argue whether the events described within the Mahabharata correspond to a specific historical period or if it's a grand amalgamation of several centuries of conflict and cultural evolution. You can almost feel the dust of ancient chariots stirring underfoot, smell the sacred smoke from forgotten rituals, and hear the distant chants of Brahmins. It's a world steeped in Dharma, a concept so central to this narrative that it's practically a character in itself. Think of it as cosmic law, righteous conduct, or just doing the right thing, even when the right thing is incredibly inconvenient. At the heart of this burgeoning world lies a lineage, a royal family whose internal squabbles will eventually consume kingdoms and redraw the map of human understanding. This is the Kuru dynasty, named after a powerful and righteous ancestor, King Kuru. Imagine, if you will, a family tree so vast and tangled it would make your own holiday gatherings look like a quiet afternoon tea. This wasn't just any family. They were the custodians of a vast empire, their capital, Hastinapura, a glittering jewel by the Ganges River. You can almost picture it. Grand palaces, bustling marketplaces, and probably a few stray cows wandering through the main square. Because, well, India. Mainstream historical fact. The Ganges River has been a vital lifeline and sacred waterway for civilizations in India for millennia, a silent witness to countless stories, including this one. The tale, as you're about to discover, is narrated by a sage named Vyasa, who is said to have composed this monumental work. He's essentially the world's first and greatest reality show producer, but with more beards and less manufactured drama. He meticulously records the lineage, a kind of cosmic family album. You see the early kings, each adding a thread to the tapestry. Then there's the great King Bharata, a legendary figure from whom the very land, Bharatavarsha, India, is said to derive its name. He's the kind of guy who probably had statues of himself in every village, and deservingly so. As you peer closer into this ancient tapestry, you notice something intriguing, the subtle interplay of divine will. This isn't just a story about mortals making bad choices. It's about the gods, or rather, the cosmic forces, subtly nudging events, sometimes with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. You might find yourself wondering if fate is truly preordained, or if every decision, every desperate gamble, simply leads you down a path that was always waiting. It's a question that has plagued humanity since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone was listening. Here, the divine whispers aren't just background noise, they're the very foundation upon which the human drama unfolds. And boy, does it unfold. As you settle deeper into this cosmic tale, you'll find that the echoes of the divine whispers from Section 1 quickly coalesce into distinct voices, shaping destinies with the weight of ancient prophecy. We now turn our gaze to a particularly significant branch of that sprawling Kuru family tree, focusing on a king whose choices, both wise and tragically flawed, set the stage for generations of strife. You're now intimately acquainted with the royal halls of Hastinapura, feeling the cool marble under your feet as you walk alongside King Shantanu. He's a good king by all accounts, ruling with a benevolent hand, but even the best rulers aren't immune to the whims of fate, or in this case, the irresistible allure of a river goddess. Imagine him strolling along the banks of the mighty Ganges. Remember that sacred river we talked about, the one that's seen it all? When he encounters Ganga herself, personified as a breathtakingly beautiful woman. Now, if a river goddess showed up in your life, looking like she just stepped out of a high-fashion mythical photo shoot, you'd probably be a bit smitten too, wouldn't you? Their love story is swift and passionate, but comes with a peculiar condition. Shantanu must never question Ganga's actions, no matter how strange they seem. Break this vow, and she'll leave him forever. It's the kind of contractual agreement that would make any modern lawyer raise an eyebrow if they could stop fainting from the sheer mythological gravitas of it all. For a time, their life is blissful, and they have 8 sons. But here's where the story takes a dark, bewildering turn that would give any parent nightmares. One by one, Ganga takes each newborn child and drowns them in her own sacred waters. You can feel Shantanu's horror, his heart being torn apart with each life lost. Yet he remains silent, bound by his vow. It's an agonizing test of devotion, a choice between love and the fundamental instinct to protect one's offspring. Mainstream historical fact: infanticide, though abhorrent, was tragically present in various ancient cultures, often for reasons ranging from perceived deformities to resource scarcity, though the mythological context here is unique. When the 8th son is born, Shantanu can no longer bear it. His desperate plea finally breaks his silence. And just as Ganga prepares to drown this child, he cries out, questioning her cruel actions. As per her vow, Ganga reveals the tragic truth. Her sons were celestial beings, cursed to be born on earth, and by sending them back to the heavens through her waters, she was freeing them from their earthly burden. The eighth son, however, was born to a particularly severe curse, requiring him to live a longer life on earth, burdened by his father's love. She leaves, her mission fulfilled, but leaves the last surviving son with Shantanu. This son is Devavrata, a boy destined for greatness and for a vow that will echo through centuries. Historians still argue whether the motif of celestial beings born as mortals represents a literal belief or is a metaphorical device to elevate the stakes and significance of the epic's characters. It's a debate that probably keeps a few academics up at night, unlike you, who should be feeling wonderfully sleepy. Years pass, and Devavrata grows into a magnificent prince. He's strong, intelligent, and skilled in warfare. The kind of crown prince who would make any kingdom proud. Shantanu, however, is a king in his twilight years, and a king without an heir, not truly. Devavrata is his heir, but an old king still yearns for a deeper connection, for more family. He falls deeply in love again, this time with a beautiful fisher girl named Satyavati. Ah, love, the great disruptor, even in ancient times. Satyavati's father, however, is a shrewd man. He agrees to the marriage, but only on one condition. Any children born to Satyavati must inherit the throne, not Devavrata. This presents Shantanu with an agonizing dilemma. His love for Satyavati is profound, but his duty to Devavrata, his rightful heir, is paramount. He becomes consumed by sorrow, his joy replaced by a deep melancholy. You can almost feel the weight of his dilemma pressing down on him. A loyal son, Devavrata, noticing his father's unhappiness, uncovers the reason. Without hesitation, and driven by immense filial devotion, he makes a vow so astonishing, so utterly selfless, that it earns him a new name and forever alters the course of the Kuru dynasty. He vows to renounce his claim to the throne, ensuring Satyavati's children would be the sole successors. But the shrewd fisherman, clearly not one to leave loopholes, presses further. What if Devavrata's children then claim the throne? To remove all doubt, Devavrata makes an even more extreme vow. He will remain celibate for life. No children, no heirs, no possible challenge to Satyavati's line. This incredible, self-sacrificing pledge earns him the name Bhishma, he of the terrible vow. You see, he's not just a prince anymore. He's a living, breathing testament to sacrifice, a figure so unwavering in his resolve that even the gods probably took notes. It's a choice that ensures the present king's happiness, but, ironically, sows the seeds of future conflict, like planting a lovely rose bush that secretly grows thorns sharp enough to pierce a kingdom's heart. You've just witnessed a vow so profound, so utterly self-sacrificing, that it practically vibrates through the ancient air. Bhishma, the once mighty Devavrata, has willingly traded a throne and a family for his father's happiness, securing Satyavati's lineage at what seems like an unimaginable personal cost. You might be thinking, well, that's sorted then. Happy ending, roll credits. But oh dear listener, this is the Mahabharata, and happy endings are often just intermission music before the next, even more dramatic act. The ripples of Bhishma's terrible vow, like stones dropped into a pond, will spread far and wide, eventually becoming a tsunami that engulfs generations. With Bhishma out of the line of succession, Satyavati's children become the undisputed heirs. She bears Shantanu 2 sons, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. Chitrangada the elder succeeds his father, but meets an untimely end in a skirmish with a Gandharva king who also happened to be named Chitrangada. Imagine the cosmic confusion at the pearly gates. It's like 2 people named Brad showing up to the same party, only one of them has a celestial weapon and a very bad temper. This leaves the younger brother, Vichitravirya, as king. However, Vichitravirya is still very young and, let's be frank, a bit unprepared for the complexities of kingship and, more pressingly, fatherhood. Here's where Bhishma, despite his vow of celibacy, steps in again, driven by his unwavering duty to the Kuru lineage. He takes it upon himself to find suitable brides for his young stepbrother. Mainstream historical fact. Arranged marriages were a prevalent social custom in many ancient societies, often serving to cement alliances and ensure dynastic continuity. So Bhishma, ever the dutiful guardian, journeys to the kingdom of Kashi, where a Swayamvara, a bride-choosing ceremony, is taking place for 3 beautiful princesses, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika. Now, a Swayamvara isn't your average dating app, swipe right scenario. It's a grand affair where princesses choose their husbands from an assembly of eligible princes. Bhishma, seeing that Vichitravirya might be a tad too shy or simply not presentable enough to win the princesses' hearts in a traditional manner, decides to take a more direct approach. In a move that would probably get him cancelled on social media today, he abducts all 3 princesses by force, challenging the assembled kings and princes to stop him. You can almost hear the gasps and indignant shouts from the royal attendees. It's a bold, decisive move, showcasing his immense strength and unyielding will. He defeats all who challenge him, demonstrating why he truly is Bhishma. Historians still argue whether such bride abduction scenarios in ancient texts were literal practices or symbolic narratives emphasizing a warrior's prowess and the concept of might makes right in certain contexts. He brings the 3 princesses back to Hastinapura, intending them to be wives for Vichitravirya. However, there's a snag. Amba, the eldest, reveals she had already secretly pledged her heart to King Salva of Sauba. Bhishma, ever a stickler for Dharma, remember that cosmic law we talked about, allows Amba to return to Salva. You might think, okay, problem solved, 2 brides for Vichitravirya. But poor Amba's story is a tragic one. Salva, humiliated by her abduction, rejects her, refusing to take a bride who was won by another man. Amba, now scorned by both Salva and effectively by Bhishma's actions, vows vengeance against Bhishma, dedicating her life to his downfall. Her story is a chilling reminder that even the noblest intentions can have devastating, unforeseen consequences. Her resentment will fester, eventually leading to a pivotal moment much later in our tale. Meanwhile, Ambika and Ambalika marry Vichitravirya, but fate, it seems, has a cruel twist in store yet again. Vichitravirya, much like his older brother, dies young, childless, and before securing an heir to the throne. You might be sighing deeply by now, feeling the frustration of this constantly threatened lineage. It's like a cosmic game of Jenga, where every block pulled is another potential heir. The Kuru dynasty, once again, faces a crisis of succession. The throne is empty, and there's no direct male heir. Satyavati, now the matriarch, is understandably distraught. She turns to Bhishma, reminding him of his duty to the lineage. She even suggests he break his vow of celibacy to father children with Ambika and Ambalika for the sake of the dynasty. But Bhishma, true to his terrible vow, refuses. His resolve is unshakable. He will not compromise his dharma, even for the most compelling of reasons. So, what's a dynastic matriarch to do? Satyavati, being the resourceful woman she is, recalls an ancient custom known as niyoga. This practice allowed a childless widow to conceive a son with a qualified male relative or sage to ensure the continuation of the family line, usually done with great formality and strict conditions. Think of it as ancient adoption, but with a lot more ritual and, let's be honest, potential for awkward family dinners. She summons her eldest son, Vyasa, the very sage who is narrating this entire epic to you. Yes, the author is also a character in his own story. A bit like finding out the director of your favorite movie is also the main character's long-lost sibling. Vyasa is a powerful, ascetic sage, known for his wisdom and austere lifestyle. He agrees to help, but his appearance, due to his rigorous austerities, is said to be quite fearsome. He's not exactly Prince Charming. You've just witnessed Satyavati's desperate yet ingenious solution to the succession crisis, calling upon the formidable sage Vyasa to ensure the Kuru lineage continues through the ancient practice of niyoga. It's a testament to the lengths people will go to preserve a royal line, even if it means a very unusual family reunion. You can almost feel the collective holding of breath in Hastinapura as this crucial, slightly unconventional plan unfolds. First, Ambika, the elder widow, is sent to Vyasa. However, upon seeing the austere sage, whose appearance is rough and unkempt from years of asceticism, she recoils in fear and closes her eyes. It's a perfectly understandable reaction, honestly. Imagine expecting a prince and getting someone who looks like they've just wrestled a bear in a cave. When the child is born, due to Ambika's closed eyes, he is born blind. This child is Dhritarashtra. You can almost hear the soft, sorrowful murmurs throughout the palace. A blind king, even in ancient times, presented a significant challenge to governance, relying entirely on the sight of others. Mainstream historical fact. Physical disabilities, particularly blindness, often posed considerable societal and practical challenges in ancient leadership roles, though exceptional individuals sometimes overcame these. Next, Ambalika, the younger widow, is sent to Vyasa. Forewarned by Ambika's experience, Ambalika manages to keep her eyes open, but her fear and pallor are evident. She turns pale upon seeing Vyasa. Consequently, her son is born pale and sickly, a condition that gives him his name, Pandu, meaning the Pale One. So now, the Kuru dynasty has two princes, one blind, one pale, both born under rather peculiar circumstances, and neither quite fitting the mold of the perfect, strapping heir. Historians still argue whether the physical descriptions of Dhritarashtra and Pandu are merely symbolic representations of their inherent characteristics or literal birth defects that shaped their destinies. Satyavati, still not entirely satisfied, asks Vyasa for one more son, hoping for a truly robust and healthy heir. This time, she sends a maidservant to Vyasa, pretending she is one of the queens. The maid, unfazed by Vyasa's appearance, approaches him with respect and courage. Her son is born strong and healthy, named Vidura. Though he is virtuous and wise, he cannot become king because he was born to a maidservant, not a queen. This established a critical social hierarchy in that era, a detail that feels a bit unfair now, doesn't it? It's like being the smartest kid in class, but not getting the gold star because you used the wrong color crayon. So, here you have them, 3 half-brothers, crucial to the Kuru lineage. Dhritarashtra, the eldest but blind, Pandu, younger but physically able, and Vidura, the wisest but born to a lower station. Due to Dhritarashtra's blindness, he is deemed unfit to rule directly, as ancient custom often required a king to be physically perfect to lead. Therefore, Pandu ascends to the throne of Hastinapura. He becomes a powerful and successful king, expanding the Kuru Empire and earning great renown. You can almost feel the sigh of relief from Satyavati. Finally, a steady hand on the rudder of the kingdom. However, just as things seem to be stabilizing, fate, ever a fan of dramatic irony, throws another curveball. Pandu, while hunting in the forest, accidentally kills a sage and his wife, who were in the form of deer, in the act of procreation. The dying sage curses Pandu, decreeing that if he ever attempts to engage in sexual relations, he will die. This is a devastating blow for a king, especially one who needs to produce heirs. It's the ultimate catch-22 for a monarch. Stricken by the curse, Pandu renounces his kingdom and retreats to the forest with his 2 wives, Kunti and Madri, to live an ascetic life. He leaves Dhritarashtra, despite his blindness, to act as regent in Hastinapura. You might raise an eyebrow here. Why not Vidura, the wise one? Well, Vidura's birth status precluded him from the throne, highlighting the strict social stratification of the time. In the solitude of the forest, Pandu is tormented by the curse and the inability to have children. Kunti, his first wife, however, possesses a divine boon she received in her youth. She can invoke any god and bear a child by them. It's a secret superpower, essentially. She uses this boon to call upon Dharma, the god of righteousness, to conceive Yudhishthira, the embodiment of truth and justice. Then she invokes Vayu, the god of wind, to have Bhima, a son of immense strength, and finally, Indra, the king of gods, to conceive Arjuna, the peerless archer. Imagine being pregnant 3 times, and each time, the baby daddy is a deity. That's a pretty impressive resume for Kunti. Madri, Pandu's second wife, also wishes for children. Kunti, in an act of kindness, shares her boon with Madri. Madri then invokes the Ashwin twins, divine physicians, and gives birth to Nakula and Sahadeva. Thus, the 5 Pandava brothers, the protagonists of our epic, are born, each fathered by a god, making them extraordinarily gifted. They are born in the serene, yet isolated environment of the forest, far from the intrigues of the Hastinapura court. Their birth fulfills Pandu's desire for heirs, circumventing the curse in a uniquely divine way. Meanwhile, back in Hastinapura, Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandhari are eager for their own children. Gandhari, a truly devoted wife, had blindfolded herself for life upon marrying Dhritarashtra, sharing his sensory experience. It's an act of profound loyalty, or perhaps a rather extreme fashion statement, depending on your perspective. With the blessings of Vyasa, Gandhari gives birth to a lump of flesh. Initially distraught, Vyasa divides this lump into 101 parts. From these parts are born 100 sons and 1 daughter. These are the Kauravas, led by their eldest, Duryodhana. Can you imagine having 100 siblings? Family dinners must have been an absolute logistical nightmare, and probably involved a lot of elbow throwing over the last potato. It's a remarkable, if somewhat unbelievable, explosion of progeny. So, as Pandu's children, the Pandavas, grow up in the tranquility of the forest, Dhritarashtra's children, the Kauravas, are being raised in the bustling, competitive, and politically charged environment of Hastinapura. The stage is set for a rivalry, not just between cousins, but between fundamentally different upbringings, and as you'll see, different interpretations of Dharma itself. The seeds of conflict are being sown, not in a grand, dramatic moment, but in the quiet, separate nurseries of 2 burgeoning royal families. You've just witnessed the curious, almost divine births of the Pandavas in the tranquil forest, and the somewhat overwhelming arrival of the 100 Kauravas in the bustling palace of Hastinapura. The stage, as you might recall, is perfectly set for a rivalry, though at this point, it's more of a gentle simmer than a full-blown boil. Now you get to watch these 2 distinct sets of cousins grow up, their childhoods a fascinating contrast that subtly yet irrevocably shapes their destinies. Imagine the young Pandavas in their forest dwelling. You see Yudhishthira, the eldest, already embodying a quiet sense of righteousness, his every action guided by an innate sense of Dharma, almost as if he was born with a moral compass permanently set to true north. Then there's Bhima, a child of immense, almost cartoonish strength. He's the one who'd probably accidentally knocked down a tree while playing hide-and-seek. And Arjuna, even as a boy, displays an uncanny natural talent for archery, effortlessly hitting targets that would challenge seasoned warriors. He's the prodigy, the one everyone whispers about. Finally, Nakula and Sahadeva, the youngest twins, are known for their striking good looks and quiet wisdom, respectively. Their upbringing is simple, surrounded by nature, learning from sages and hermits, unburdened by the political machinations of a royal court. Their play involves hunting, tracking, and mastering rudimentary skills, all while absorbing the timeless lessons of forest life. It's a bit like an ancient, spiritual summer camp, but with more divine parentage and fewer s'mores. Tragically, while the Pandavas are still young, King Pandu succumbs to his curse, dying when he attempts intimacy with Madri. Overwhelmed by grief and guilt, Madri immolates herself on his funeral pyre, a practice known as sati, leaving the 5 young Pandavas orphaned. It's a heartbreaking scene, and you can feel the sudden weight of their loss. Bhishma and Vidura, back in Hastinapura, learn of this tragedy and dispatch a party to bring the young Pandavas back to the capital. So, the 5 forest-raised boys arrive in Hastinapura, a world vastly different from the one they knew. Here, they meet their cousins, the Kauravas, led by Duryodhana. Imagine the culture shock, going from the quiet solitude of the woods to a bustling palace filled with 100 other children, all vying for attention. The Kauravas, particularly Duryodhana, have been raised in an environment of privilege and a deep sense of entitlement. Duryodhana, the eldest, is fiercely ambitious and quickly develops a resentment towards the Pandavas, especially Bhima and Arjuna. He sees them not as family, but as rivals for the affection of the court, and crucially, for the future throne. You witness the early signs of this rivalry. The cousins play together, but their games often devolve into contests, and Duryodhana, with his numerous brothers backing him, frequently tries to assert dominance. Bhima, with his incredible strength, often unintentionally, or perhaps sometimes intentionally, gets the better of Duryodhana and his brothers, leading to jealousy and increasing animosity. It's like watching a group of siblings, but instead of bickering over the last cookie, they're bickering over future empires. Mainstream historical fact. Sibling and cousin rivalries are common themes in epic literature across various cultures, often driving central conflicts due to issues of inheritance and power. Duryodhana's envy is particularly acute towards Bhima and Arjuna. Bhima's sheer physical power is a constant source of frustration, while Arjuna's undeniable talent as an archer fills him with a gnawing insecurity. He tries various schemes to undermine or even harm the Pandavas. One particularly chilling incident you'll observe is Duryodhana attempting to poison Bhima and then throw him into the Ganges. Thankfully, Bhima survives, his immense strength and a touch of divine intervention saving him. This incident solidifies the deep-seated malice Duryodhana holds, making it clear that his dislike isn't just childish jealousy. It's something darker and more dangerous. Historians still argue whether such dramatic attempts on lives were common in ancient royal courts or serve as literary devices to highlight character motivations and foreshadow future events. Despite the growing tension, both the Pandavas and Kauravas receive their education together. They are taught by some of the greatest masters of the age. Their common grandfather, Bhishma, ever the protector of the Kuru lineage, ensures they receive the best training possible. The princes learn statecraft, diplomacy, philosophy, and crucially, the art of warfare. You can almost see them, young and eager, absorbing lessons in a grand courtyard, their youthful squabbles temporarily forgotten in the pursuit of knowledge. It's a fleeting period of relative peace, a calm before the storm. But the underlying currents of animosity are unmistakably present, slowly eroding the bonds of kinship. The shared childhood, meant to foster unity, instead highlights their differences and solidifies the lines of division. It's like putting oil and water in the same bottle and shaking it vigorously. For a moment, they mix, but inevitably, they separate. You've just seen the nascent rivalry between the Pandavas and Kauravas bubbling under the surface. A simmering tension that even childhood games couldn't fully contain. Now, you're about to witness a crucial phase in their lives, one that will hone their natural talents into formidable skills and further sharpen the competitive edge between them. This is the period of their formal education, specifically their martial training under one of the greatest warrior gurus of all time, Drona. Imagine a grand arena, a vast training ground just outside Hastinapura, echoing with the thud of maces, the twang of bowstrings, and the clang of swords. Here, under the watchful eye of Drona, both the Pandavas and the Kauravas are molded into warriors. Drona is a Brahmin, a priest by birth, but a warrior by calling. With an unparalleled mastery of weaponry and military strategy, he's the kind of teacher who inspires both awe and a healthy dose of fear. His past is rooted in a slight from King Drupada of Panchala, a humiliation that fuels his desire to create supreme warriors who can help him exact revenge later. This personal ambition subtly intertwines with his role as royal guru, adding another layer of complexity to the drama you're observing. You see the young princes, dusty and determined, learning everything from wielding a sword to driving a chariot, from the intricate maneuvers of mace fighting to the devastating precision of archery. Bhima, with his prodigious strength, excels in mace warfare, his blows capable of shattering stone. Duryodhana, too, shows skill in the mace, but it's always secondary to Bhima's natural prowess, a constant source of his festering envy. Mainstream historical fact: Gurukuls, or residential schools led by a guru, were a traditional system of education in ancient India, emphasizing both academic and practical learning, often in a familial setting. However, it is Arjuna who becomes Drona's most prized student. You witness his extraordinary dedication and talent. He practices tirelessly, even in the dark, using a special lamp, honing his archery skills to an almost superhuman level. He's not just good, he's obsessed with perfection. Drona, recognizing Arjuna's singular focus and potential, promises him that he will make him the greatest archer in the world. It's a promise that sets Arjuna apart, deepening Duryodhana's already profound jealousy. Imagine being in a class where one student is clearly the teacher's favorite, and they're destined for world-beating success. It's enough to make anyone a bit green with envy, let alone 100 princely brothers who already feel entitled to everything. This period isn't just about physical training. It's also about tests of character and displays of inner merit. One famous incident you'll recall involves Drona setting a test. The princes must shoot the eye of a wooden bird perched on a distant tree. As each prince takes aim, Drona asks them what they see. Others describe the tree, the branches, the bird. But when he asks Arjuna, Arjuna replies, "I see only the eye of the bird." This single-minded focus, this absolute clarity of purpose, is what sets him apart and cements his position as Drona's greatest disciple. Historians still argue whether such focus tests in ancient narratives are literal accounts of training methods or symbolic representations of ideal student qualities. The growing animosity between the Pandavas and Kauravas becomes even more pronounced during this time. Duryodhana, often encouraged by his maternal uncle, Shakuni, a master manipulator and gambler, whose presence is like a coiled snake in the grass, continues to plot against the Pandavas. Shakuni is the kind of relative who whispers poison in your ear and then pretends he's just offering helpful advice. You sense his influence, slowly corrupting Duryodhana's mind, feeding his ambition and paranoia. Even a tragic incident involving a tribal boy named Ekalavya highlights Drona's favoritism towards Arjuna. Ekalavya, a skilled archer from a lower caste, practices tirelessly and self-learns, making a clay idol of Drona, his guru. He achieves remarkable skill, even surpassing Arjuna. When Drona discovers Ekalavya, he demands Ekalavya's right thumb as Guru Dakshina, a teacher's fee. Ekalavya, out of unwavering respect for his perceived guru, willingly complies, crippling himself. This act, while showing Ekalavya's devotion, also ensures Arjuna remains the undisputed greatest archer. It's a stark, uncomfortable reminder of the social hierarchies and moral complexities of the age, and a moment that you might find yourself wincing at. After their training concludes, the princes demonstrate their skills in a grand public exhibition. It's a spectacle, a royal talent show, where the future leaders showcase their prowess. Arjuna, as expected, dazzles the crowd with his incredible archery feats, even demonstrating the ability to shoot arrows precisely with his eyes closed. The crowd erupts in cheers, solidifying his popularity. However, it's during this exhibition that a new figure emerges. Karna. Karna, an enigmatic and exceedingly skilled archer, challenges Arjuna. You see the raw power and natural talent in Karna, a man who, unbeknownst to anyone present, including himself, is actually Kunti's firstborn son, abandoned by her at birth due to unfortunate circumstances. A secret that will unravel with devastating consequences later on. He's been raised by a charioteer, hence his low social standing in the eyes of the court. Duryodhana, always quick to exploit any advantage, recognizes Karna's talent and, more importantly, his rivalry with Arjuna. In a move designed to spite Arjuna and elevate his own faction, Duryodhana immediately crowns Karna as the king of Anga, granting him the royal status necessary to compete with the prince. This audacious act cements a deep bond of friendship between Duryodhana and Karna, a loyalty that will prove unbreakable and tragically pivotal. It's like a corporate CEO suddenly promoting a brilliant but unknown intern just to annoy his rival. Thus, the stage is now even more crowded with talent, ambition, and simmering animosity. The training under Drona, meant to equip the princes for leadership, has instead intensified their personal rivalries, laying down foundational antagonisms that will, without a doubt, contribute to the colossal conflict looming on the horizon. The lines are being drawn, not with chalk, but with the sharp edges of destiny. You've just witnessed the intense training under Drona, the rise of Arjuna as the supreme archer, and the dramatic entrance of Karna, an enigmatic figure whose bond with Duryodhana promises nothing but further complications. The rivalry between the Pandavas and Kauravas, once a childhood squabble, has now solidified into something far more substantial, fueled by jealousy, ambition, and the subtle machinations of Shakuni. Now, as the tensions in Hastinapura simmer, a new, almost impossibly influential character enters the narrative. a figure whose very presence seems to bend the fabric of reality itself. This is the moment Krishna, the divine cowherd, steps into the spotlight, forever intertwining his destiny with the Pandavas. You first encounter Krishna not as a king, but as a charming, enigmatic figure from the Yadava clan, specifically the Vrishnis. His kingdom, Dwarka, is far to the west, a glittering city built on the coast, perhaps even partially submerged in legend. He's known for his wisdom, his mischievous charm, and his unparalleled strategic mind. He's not just a powerful prince. He's believed by many to be an incarnation of Vishnu, the preserver god, though for now you perceive him through the lens of a brilliant political and spiritual leader. His arrival isn't announced with trumpets and fanfare for his own glory, but rather through his growing reputation and quiet, yet profound influence. The Pandavas, especially Arjuna, are drawn to Krishna almost instinctively. You can imagine the connection forming, a young gifted warrior finding a mentor and friend in a figure of immense spiritual and practical wisdom. Krishna, in turn, recognizes the inherent righteousness and destined role of the Pandavas. His presence brings a new dimension to their struggles, offering them not just practical advice, but also a profound spiritual anchor. He isn't just a political ally. He's a cosmic guide. Mainstream historical fact. The city of Dwarka, traditionally believed to be Krishna's capital, has been the subject of archaeological explorations, with findings suggesting ancient submerged settlements off the coast of Gujarat. Krishna's role quickly transcends mere friendship. He becomes a vital counselor, a strategist, and a moral compass for the Pandavas. You'll notice how his advice is always steeped in dharma, even when it seems to push the boundaries of conventional morality. He's a pragmatist with a divine purpose, a fascinating paradox. Think of him as the ultimate life coach, but instead of telling you to manifest your dreams, he's subtly rearranging the destiny of an entire subcontinent. One of the early crucial moments where Krishna's influence becomes apparent is during the Pandavas' tumultuous journey after escaping the infamous House of Lac. Duryodhana, unable to tolerate the Pandavas' popularity and the threat they pose to his claim on the throne, builds them a palace made of highly flammable lac and plots to burn them alive. It's a truly insidious scheme, the kind of villainy that would make a Bond villain blush. However, Vidura, ever loyal and wise, warns the Pandavas in advance. They secretly construct an escape tunnel, and after making it seem they have perished in the fire, flee into the wilderness. You can almost feel the relief wash over you as they narrowly escape this fiery trap. During their wanderings, in disguise, they encounter a series of challenges and adventures. It's during this period that they reach the kingdom of Panchala, where a Swayamvara is being held for the beautiful and accomplished princess, Draupadi. This is a pivotal moment, for Draupadi is destined to become the common wife of the 5 Pandavas, a complex and highly unusual arrangement even in that ancient era. The challenge set for her hand is formidable. A suitor must string an unstrung bow and then shoot a fish's eye, not by looking at the fish directly, but by looking at its reflection in a bowl of water below. It's the ultimate test of focus and skill, a true archery puzzle. Historians still argue whether polyandry, the practice of one woman having multiple husbands, was a common or exceptional practice in Vedic times, and its representation in the Mahabharata remains a topic of scholarly debate. Many powerful kings and princes fail the test, including the arrogant Kauravas. Then, in a moment of pure, show-stopping drama, Arjuna, disguised as a Brahmin, steps forward. You can feel the collective murmurs of the crowd, disbelief giving way to awe as he effortlessly strings the bow and, with a single, perfectly aimed arrow, hits the fish's eye. The crowd erupts, and Draupadi garlands him, signifying her choice. However, a misunderstanding immediately follows. The Pandavas, still in disguise and living the life of mendicant Brahmins, return to their mother Kunti and exclaim, "Mother, we have brought a wonderful alms today." Kunti, without looking, simply replies, "Share whatever you have brought amongst yourselves." Her words, spoken unwittingly, become a command that cannot be unsaid, especially for the dharmic Yudhishthira. This seemingly innocuous statement, combined with the divine will, leads to Draupadi becoming the wife of all 5 Pandava brothers. It's an arrangement that initially causes societal shock and considerable debate, but one that is ultimately accepted due to divine decree and the Pandavas' adherence to their mother's words. Krishna, who is present at the Swayamvara, recognizes the Pandavas despite their disguises and understands the divine purpose behind this unusual union. His nod of approval subtly legitimizes the arrangement, reinforcing his role as an observer and facilitator of destiny. The revelation of the Pandavas' survival and their marriage to Draupadi sends shockwaves through Hastinapura. Dhritarashtra, advised by Vidura, is compelled to acknowledge them and prevent outright war. He attempts a compromise. He offers the Pandavas a barren, uncultivated tract of land called Kandavaprastha, while keeping the more prosperous half for the Kauravas. It's a somewhat grudging concession, a way to keep them at arm's length. But under the guidance of Krishna, the Pandavas transform Kandavaprastha into the magnificent city of Indraprastha. You can almost see it rising from the dust, a city of unparalleled beauty, architectural marvel, and prosperity, built with divine assistance. This becomes their new capital, a testament to their industriousness and the blessings they carry. It's a period of immense success and happiness for the Pandavas, a golden age where Dharma flourishes and their kingdom thrives, rivaling Hastinapura itself. This newfound prosperity and the gleaming city of Indraprastha, however, only serve to further stoke the flames of Duryodhana's envy. The stage is set, the players are in position, and the underlying tensions are reaching a critical mass. You've just witnessed the Pandavas, guided by Krishna, transform a barren wasteland into the gleaming marvel that is Indraprastha, a testament to their virtue and divine favor. Their prosperity, however, acts like a magnifying glass on Duryodhana's already festering envy. The peace, so carefully constructed by Vidura and Dhritarashtra's compromise, is fragile, a thin veneer over a cauldron of resentment. You can feel the air growing heavy with unspoken threats, the kind that make your hair stand on end even thousands of years later. The stage is now perfectly set for the event that perhaps more than any other single incident irrevocably pushes the Kuru family towards its catastrophic war, the infamous dice game. This isn't just a casual game night. It's a meticulously crafted trap, a venomous snare laid by Duryodhana with the insidious help of his maternal uncle, Shakuni. Remember him? The master manipulator with the loaded dice and an uncanny ability to whisper evil into an eager ear. Shakuni is less a dice player and more a psychological warfare expert. Duryodhana, consumed by jealousy over Indraprastha's splendor and the Pandavas' burgeoning power, convinces his blind father, Dhritarashtra, to invite Yudhishthira to a game of dice. Dhritarashtra, despite Vidura's earnest pleas and warnings, succumbs to his son's persistent demands and his own weakness for Duryodhana. You can almost see him, torn between his conscience and his overwhelming love for his eldest son, a love that blinds him more effectively than any physical ailment. Mainstream historical fact. Gambling was a recognized, albeit often condemned, activity in ancient Indian society, appearing in various texts as a source of ruin. Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, the embodiment of Dharma, finds himself in a moral bind. As a Kshatriya king, he cannot refuse an invitation to a game of dice, particularly from his elders, as it would be seen as a sign of weakness or cowardice. It's a matter of honor, a twisted kind of etiquette that traps him. You feel his apprehension, his knowing that something is terribly wrong, yet compelled to attend. The game begins. Shakuni, with his mastery of loaded dice and psychological manipulation, faces Yudhishthira. You watch as Yudhishthira, despite his reputation for wisdom, is progressively ensnared. He bets his wealth, then his kingdom, then his brothers, one by one. It's a slow, agonizing descent into ruin. Each throw of the dice is a hammer blow, chipping away at everything the Pandavas hold dear. He loses his magnificent chariot, his treasury, even the very citizens of Indraprastha. With each loss, you feel the knot of dread tightening in your stomach. Historians still argue whether Yudhishthira's continued participation in the dice game was a demonstration of a fatal flaw in his character, a tragic adherence to Kshatriya code, or a divinely ordained event. Then, in a moment of unimaginable despair, Yudhishthira, having lost everything else, stakes himself and loses. The Pandavas are now slaves, bound to Duryodhana. You can almost hear the triumphant, cruel laughter of Duryodhana and his brothers echoing through the hall. But the most heinous act is yet to come. Duryodhana, in his moment of perceived triumph, orders his brother Dushasana to bring Draupadi, the common wife of the Pandavas, into the assembly hall and publicly disrobe her. Draupadi, horrified and humiliated, pleads for justice, for recognition of her dignity. She appeals to the elders, to Dhritarashtra, to Bhishma, but they remain silent, bound by their complex vows, or simply too afraid to defy Duryodhana. It's a moment of utter moral collapse in the Kuru court. You feel the profound shame, the burning injustice of it all. As Dushasana attempts to strip her sari, Draupadi, in a desperate act of faith, prays to Krishna. And then, a miracle occurs. Her sari becomes endless, unwrapping layer after layer, frustrating Dushasana's efforts until he collapses in exhaustion. Krishna's divine intervention saves her honor. a powerful moment that underscores his protective presence for the Pandavas. You can almost feel the collective gasp of the assembly, a mixture of awe and terror. This public humiliation, known as the Draupadi Vastraharan, disrobing, is the ultimate insult, an unpardonable sin that ignites an unquenchable fire of rage in the hearts of the Pandavas, especially the mighty Bhima. Bhima, enraged beyond measure, swears a terrible oath. He will shatter Dushasana's chest and drink his blood, and he will break Duryodhana's thighs in battle. Arjuna, too, pledges to kill Karna. These vows are not just angry outbursts. They are sacred oaths, binding the Pandavas to a path of vengeance that can only be resolved through blood. Even Dhritarashtra, seeing the horrific turn of events and fearing the repercussions, intervenes. He offers Draupadi a boon, which she uses to free her husbands and retrieve all that they lost in the game. You might breathe a sigh of relief, thinking the crisis is averted. But no, the poison has spread too far. Duryodhana, still consumed by his hatred and fearing the Pandavas' return to power, convinces Dhritarashtra to invite Yudhishthira to another dice game, with the condition that the loser must go into exile for 12 years, followed by 1 year of living incognito. If they are discovered during the incognito year, they must repeat the exile. Yudhishthira, again bound by his code, accepts the challenge, and inevitably, he loses again. It's a horrifying repetition of folly, a slow-motion car crash that you can't tear your eyes from. Thus, the Pandavas are forced into a long, arduous exile, stripped of their kingdom, their pride deeply wounded, but their resolve for eventual justice hardened. The dice game isn't just a game. It's the catalyst, the spark that ignites the powder keg, ensuring that the Kuru family feud will ultimately be settled not by negotiations, but by the clash of steel on the battlefield. You feel the bitter taste of defeat, but also the ominous promise of retribution to come. You've just witnessed the catastrophic outcome of the dice game, feeling the raw humiliation of Draupadi and the burning vows of the Pandavas. Stripped of everything, exiled by a twisted game of chance, you now follow the 5 brothers and their shared wife as they embark on the arduous journey of their 13-year banishment. This isn't a leisurely holiday. It's a period of intense hardship, profound spiritual growth, and the forging of an unbreakable resolve. Imagine yourself trudging through dense forests, your feet aching on rough terrain, the sounds of wildlife replacing the familiar comforts of palace life. The Pandavas are no longer pampered princes. They are ascetics, living off the land, facing hunger, thirst, and the constant threat of wild beasts or hostile tribes. You feel the grit under your fingernails, the ache in your muscles. This forced retreat, however, paradoxically becomes a period of immense internal strengthening. It's like hitting rock bottom, only to discover you have a deeper well of resilience than you ever knew. Mainstream historical fact: forest dwelling and asceticism were respected paths in ancient Indian spiritual traditions for gaining knowledge and self-control. Yudhishthira, the eldest, bears the heaviest burden. You see his quiet suffering, his constant struggle to uphold Dharma, even in the face of such profound injustice. He knows his folly in the dice game led them to this fate, and his internal battle to maintain his righteous path is palpable. He seeks wisdom from various sages and hermits they encounter in the forest, learning lessons of patience, forgiveness, and the true meaning of duty. He's trying to find the light, even in the deepest shadows. Bhima, still seething from Draupadi's insult, often struggles with his temper, longing for the day he can unleash his fury on Dushasana and Duryodhana. You feel his frustrated strength, his yearning for violent retribution. Yet even he learns restraint, tempered by Yudhishthira's counsel and the wisdom imparted by forest sages. He occasionally encounters and defeats powerful demons and monsters during this period, protecting his family and demonstrating his undiminished might. Imagine him wrestling a giant demon, all while trying to remember Yudhishthira's latest lecture on patience. Arjuna, ever the dedicated warrior, uses this time to further hone his skills. This isn't just about practicing archery. It's about seeking divine weapons and blessings, preparing for the inevitable war that looms large in their future. You'll see his immense focus, his unwavering commitment to becoming the most formidable warrior imaginable. This period of exile, far from weakening him, makes him sharper, deadlier. The twins, Nakula and Sahadeva, also mature significantly. Nakula becomes renowned for his expertise with horses and his skill in battle, while Sahadeva's profound wisdom and knowledge, especially in astronomy and statecraft, deepen. Draupadi, too, endures the hardships with remarkable fortitude, her spirit unbroken, her memory of the humiliation at the dice game a constant spur. She is their strength and their conscience, reminding them of the injustice they suffered. Historians still argue whether the extensive descriptions of ascetic practices and divine boons in the forest represent spiritual ideals or serve to enhance the heroic stature of the Pandavas in preparation for their ultimate conflict. During their wanderings, they encounter numerous sages and receive prophecies and blessings. One significant encounter is with the sage Vyasa himself. Remember, their biological father, who advises them to seek divine weapons to prepare for the inevitable war. He specifically guides Arjuna to undertake severe penance to acquire celestial arms, foreshadowing the immense power he will need. You can almost feel the weight of this impending conflict pressing down on them, even in the quiet of the forest. Another notable incident during their exile is the story of the Yakshas and the pond. Yudhishthira's brothers, thirsty, go to a mysterious pond, but ignore the voice of a Yaksha, a nature spirit, who poses riddles. One by one, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva drink from the pond without answering the questions and fall unconscious. When Yudhishthira arrives, he correctly answers all of the Yaksha's profound questions on dharma, morality, and life, demonstrating his unparalleled wisdom and adherence to righteousness. This act saves his brothers, bringing them back to life. It's a powerful moment that truly highlights Yudhishthira's intellectual and moral supremacy, even in the face of death. It's a bit like a cosmic pop quiz, but with much higher stakes than just a failing grade. Meanwhile, back in Hastinapura, Duryodhana reigns supreme, but his rule is tainted by paranoia and ambition. He constantly fears the Pandavas' return, and his spies are always on the lookout for any sign of them. He enjoys the spoils of the kingdom, but remains deeply insecure, aware that his claim to the throne is built on deceit. You see the contrast: the Pandavas, growing stronger in adversity, and Duryodhana, growing more consumed by his own fear and greed, sitting on a stolen throne. The exile isn't just about physical survival. It's a period where the Pandavas' bonds as brothers are tested and solidified. They rely on each other, supporting one another through their shared adversity. This time also provides an opportunity for them to gather powerful allies. Various kings and sages, witnessing their righteousness and suffering, pledge their support for the eventual conflict. Krishna, while not physically present with them for every step, remains a guiding light, his wisdom reaching them through various messengers and divine signs, ensuring they stay on their destined path. As the years of exile slowly tick by, the anticipation for their return and the eventual confrontation grows palpable. The Pandavas, despite their hardships, emerge from this period not broken but refined, their resolve as sharp as Arjuna's arrows. They have endured the ultimate test of resilience, and they are now ready for the next, even greater challenge that awaits them: the crucial year of living incognito. The quiet suffering in the forest has transformed them from princes into truly formidable forces of destiny. You've accompanied the Pandavas through 12 arduous years of forest exile, witnessing their trials, their growth, and the deepening of their resolve. Now, as you approach the end of their banishment, the stakes are raised dramatically. The next phase is the most perilous: 1 year of living completely incognito. If their true identities are discovered during this period, they forfeit all the years of exile and must endure another 12 years in the wilderness. It's the ultimate game of hide and seek, with an entire kingdom's future hanging in the balance. Imagine the tension as the final year of exile approaches. The Pandavas, having learned so much, are now masters of disguise, ready to shed their royal identities and blend into ordinary life. This isn't just about changing clothes, it's about altering mannerisms, adopting new skills, and suppressing their inherent princely bearing. It's like going undercover for a year, but with 100 highly suspicious cousins constantly looking for you. Mainstream historical fact. The concept of disguise and secret identities is a recurring motif in various ancient epics and folklore, often used by heroes to achieve their goals undetected. Under the guidance of Yudhishthira, and with the silent blessings of Krishna, they choose the Matsya kingdom, ruled by King Virata, as their refuge. It's a strategic choice, far enough from Hastinapura, and with a king who, though powerful, isn't overtly aligned with the Kauravas. They enter the court of King Virata under various aliases, each adopting a role fitting their new, temporary identities. Yudhishthira, the righteous king, takes on the guise of a Brahmin named Kanka, a master of dice and a learned scholar. You see him advising King Virata on matters of state and entertainment, subtly applying his wisdom without revealing his true political acumen. It's a remarkable display of humility and control. A king playing the role of a humble courtier, even advising the very ruler he's serving. Bhima, the mighty warrior whose strength could level walls, becomes Vallabha, the royal cook, Imagine this colossal man, usually wielding a mace, now expertly handling kitchen utensils, though you can still sense the immense power simmering beneath the surface. He's tasked with preparing meals for the king and his court, a task he carries out with surprising diligence, perhaps occasionally flexing a bicep while kneading dough, just for old time's sake. Historians still argue whether the descriptions of such drastic changes in a hero's lifestyle emphasize their adaptability or are simply humorous literary embellishments within the narrative. Arjuna, the peerless archer, chooses the most unusual disguise. He transforms into Brihanala, a eunuch, a dance and music teacher for Princess Uttara, King Virata's daughter. You can almost feel the surprise seeing the formidable warrior, the embodiment of masculinity, adopting such a delicate and traditionally feminine role. It's a profound act of self-effacement, forcing him to shed his warrior identity completely. He instructs Uttara in singing, dancing, and playing instruments, a truly unique situation for the greatest archer in the world. It's a bit like finding out your favorite action movie star moonlights as a ballet instructor. Nakula becomes Damagranthi, a stable keeper, utilizing his renowned expertise with horses. You see him tending to the royal steeds, his knowledge of their care unparalleled, ensuring they are always in peak condition. And Sahadeva becomes Tantripala, a cowherd, overseeing the kingdom's vast herds of cattle, his quiet wisdom perfect for understanding the rhythms of nature and animals. Draupadi, the dignified queen who was publicly humiliated, takes on the role of Sairandri, a maidservant to Queen Sudeshna, King Virata's wife. She excels at her duties, maintaining her grace and composure even in such a reduced position. However, her beauty inevitably attracts unwanted attention. Kichaka, Queen Sudeshna's brother and the Matsya army's commander-in-chief, develops a lustful obsession with Sairandri and repeatedly harasses her. You feel the rising anxiety, knowing the volatile nature of Bhima and the Pandavas' need to remain hidden. Draupadi, distressed, appeals to Bhima, who is secretly seething with rage at Kichaka's disrespect. Eventually, unable to bear Kichaka's constant advances and fearing for Draupadi's safety, Bhima, in a controlled burst of his suppressed fury, secretly confronts and kills Kichaka in a secluded hall. He completely pulverizes him, making it look as though Kichaka had been killed by a celestial being, thus maintaining the Pandavas' anonymity. You can almost hear the bones crunching, a grim but satisfying moment of justice, if a slightly violent one for a cook. This incident causes a stir in the Matsya kingdom, but the Pandavas' secret remains intact. As the year draws to a close, a twist of fate occurs. The Kauravas, desperate to find the Pandavas and force them into another 13-year exile, launch a cattle raid on the Matsya kingdom, believing it to be a vulnerable moment. Their true intention, however, is to lure the Pandavas out of hiding. King Virata's forces, led by his son Uttara, are initially overwhelmed. It is then that Arjuna, with the encouragement of Yudhishthira, reveals his true identity to Prince Uttara. Arjuna, in his form as Brihanala, takes charge, retrieving his Gandiva bow from a hidden tree, and single-handedly repels the entire Kaurava army. You feel the thrill of recognition as Arjuna, finally free to unleash his full power, unleashes a barrage of celestial arrows, defeating even great warriors like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and Duryodhana without actually harming them, merely disarming them or forcing their retreat. It's a spectacular display, proving that even a year as a dance teacher hasn't dulled his incredible prowess. As the 13th year concludes, the Pandavas' identities are revealed, not because they were discovered by the Kauravas, but because they chose to reveal themselves after fulfilling their vow. The Matsya kingdom rejoices. King Virata realizes who his esteemed guests truly were, and a powerful alliance is forged. The incognito year is successfully completed. The Pandavas have emerged from their ordeal stronger, wiser, and with powerful new allies. Now, with their exile fulfilled, the time for diplomacy, or the lack thereof, will begin. The stage is perfectly set for the inevitable confrontation, a full reckoning for the dice game. You've just watched the Pandavas emerge from their arduous 13-year exile, having successfully completed their year incognito, their identities dramatically revealed on the battlefield of Matsya. The joy of their successful return is palpable. The forging of a powerful alliance with King Virata, a significant boon. You might feel a fleeting sense of relief, thinking, finally, justice will be served and peace will reign. But dear listener, in the grand narrative of the Mahabharata, peace is often a mirage, especially when colossal egos and ancient grudges are involved. The time for negotiation has arrived, but you'll soon realize that some chasms are simply too wide to bridge. Now, with their period of exile fulfilled, the Pandavas rightfully demand the return of their kingdom, Indraprastha. They have upheld their end of the bargain, enduring hardship and humiliation. Yudhishthira, ever the embodiment of Dharma, wishes for a peaceful resolution, preferring reconciliation over bloodshed. He believes in the power of righteous negotiation, even with those who have wronged him so deeply. You can almost hear his calm, reasoned voice echoing through the newly allied courts, advocating for what is just. Mainstream historical fact. Diplomatic missions and peace negotiations were common strategies employed by ancient rulers to avoid costly wars. However, the Kauravas, especially Duryodhana, have no intention of returning anything. You've seen his ambition and jealousy fester over the years, growing into an unyielding hatred. He is now firmly entrenched in his belief that the entire kingdom belongs to him, dismissing the Pandavas' claims with arrogant disdain. He declares that he will not give the Pandavas even a needle point of land, a phrase that perfectly encapsulates his unyielding obstinacy. He's like a child who's taken all the toys and simply refuses to share. Only the toys are kingdoms, and the consequences are devastating. The stage is now set for a series of critical diplomatic missions, desperate attempts to avert the impending war. The Kuru elders, including the blind king Dhritarashtra, Bhishma, Drona, and Vidura, are deeply conflicted. They recognize the righteousness of the Pandavas' claim and the grave implications of war. Yet they are either bound by loyalty to Dhritarashtra, by old age and a sense of duty, or by their inability to sway Duryodhana's hardened heart. You sense their internal struggle. Their pleas to Duryodhana often falling on deaf ears like whispers against a hurricane. It is here that Krishna steps forward as the primary peace emissary for the Pandavas. His role is absolutely pivotal. He agrees to go to Hastinapura, not just as an envoy, but as a divine mediator, despite knowing the slim chances of success. You watch him prepare for this mission, understanding that it's perhaps the last hope for peace. He is the ultimate diplomat, possessing divine wisdom, impeccable logic, and an aura of irresistible charm. He attempts to reason with Dhritarashtra, appealing to his sense of justice and his duty as a father and king. He tries to make Duryodhana see the folly of his ways, explaining the catastrophic consequences of war for both sides. Historians still argue whether Krishna's peace mission was a genuine attempt at reconciliation or a preordained step to highlight Duryodhana's intransigence and justify the coming conflict. Krishna presents a reasonable proposal. The Pandavas are willing to settle for just 5 villages, one for each brother, to avoid war. 5 small villages, a mere pittance compared to the vast kingdom they rightfully owned. It's a generous offer, a final olive branch extended by Yudhishthira. You feel the tension in the royal court as Krishna makes this proposal, seeing the faces of the elders, hoping against hope that Duryodhana will relent. But Duryodhana, fueled by Shakuni's poisonous advice and his own inflated ego, vehemently rejects even this modest request. He insults Krishna, attempts to arrest him, and declares unequivocally that he will not yield any land. His arrogance knows no bounds. This moment is the point of no return. Krishna, having exhausted all diplomatic avenues, understands that war is now inevitable. His mission, though a failure in achieving peace, succeeds in exposing Duryodhana's unrighteousness to the entire world, cementing the moral high ground for the Pandavas. You see the divine resignation in Krishna's eyes, the acknowledgement that free will, even when leading to destruction, must run its course. Following Krishna's failed mission, various other figures make their own desperate attempts at reconciliation. Bhishma and Drona plead with Duryodhana, emphasizing the righteousness of the Pandavas and the terrible consequences of fighting such powerful and virtuous warriors. Even Gandhari, Dhritarashtra's wife and Duryodhana's own mother, tries to reason with her son, begging him to choose peace. You witness her heartbreaking despair as her son remains deaf to all pleas, set on his destructive path. It's a poignant reminder that even a mother's love and wisdom can't penetrate a heart hardened by envy and pride. The final, bitter exchanges are made. The Pandavas, having fulfilled every condition and exhausted every peaceful avenue, are left with no choice but to fight for what is rightfully theirs. Yudhishthira, ever reluctant to shed blood, is finally convinced by Krishna and his brothers that war is the only remaining path to uphold Dharma and restore justice. He knows the immense suffering it will bring, but he also understands that a failure to fight for righteousness is a greater sin. The news of the failed peace talks spreads like wildfire across the land. Kingdoms begin to choose sides, aligning with either the Pandavas or the Kauravas, drawn into the impending cataclysm by ties of kinship, loyalty, or strategic interest. The air practically crackles with anticipation. The stage is no longer just set. It's being dressed for the grand, tragic spectacle of war. The whispers of peace have faded, replaced by the ominous, undeniable war drums. You've just felt the final, bitter whispers of peace dissipate, replaced by the thunderous, undeniable beat of war drums. Krishna's valiant efforts at diplomacy have failed, leaving no doubt that a colossal conflict is now inevitable. The Kuru family feud, once a distant rumor or a palace intrigue, has escalated into a full-blown continental crisis. You now find yourself on the verge of the greatest battle known to ancient history, a conflict so immense it will reshape the very landscape of the land and the soul of its people. The news of the impending war spreads like wildfire across Bharatavarsha. Kings, clans, and armies begin to mobilize, choosing sides in this epic struggle. It's like the world's largest, most tragic draft, with everyone picking their team, knowing the stakes are impossibly high. You can imagine the bustling camps, the sharpening of swords, the polishing of armor, the nervous energy that permeates every corner of the land. Mainstream historical fact. The gathering of large, multi-kingdom armies was a feature of ancient warfare, often involving complex logistical challenges. The Pandavas, now with their righteous claim undeniable and their alliances secured, including King Virata and others who pledged support during their exile, begin assembling their forces. Their army, though perhaps numerically smaller than the Kauravas, is formidable, composed of skilled warriors and led by commanders dedicated to Dharma. They are fighting for justice, for what was stolen from them, and this moral high ground gives them an unwavering resolve. On the other side, Duryodhana and his Kauravas also gather their vast army. They possess immense wealth and numbers, having control of the Hastinapura treasury and powerful allies. Their ranks include some of the most formidable warriors of the age. The venerable Bhishma, the supreme commander, bound by his terrible vow to protect the Kuru throne. The powerful Guru Drona, also bound by duty to the Hastinapura kingdom. The enigmatic and incredibly skilled Karna, fiercely loyal to Duryodhana. And the shrewd Shakuni, whose cunning will guide many of Duryodhana's strategies. You feel the sheer weight of their collective power, a daunting force. It's like facing a supergroup of legendary fighters, all under the command of someone you really don't like. A crucial moment of choice arises when both Arjuna and Duryodhana approach Krishna for his support. Krishna offers them a unique choice. One can have his vast Narayani Sena, his powerful army, but he himself will remain a non-combatant, taking no weapons in the war. The other can have Krishna himself, without his army. Duryodhana, ever focused on material power, chooses Krishna's army. Arjuna, valuing Krishna's wisdom and divine presence above all else, chooses Krishna. You understand the profound significance of this choice. Duryodhana picks strength, Arjuna picks guidance. This sets the divine stage for Krishna's ultimate role as Arjuna's charioteer, a position of seemingly humble service, yet one that places him at the very heart of the conflict. Historians still argue whether this pivotal choice represents a philosophical statement about the value of spiritual guidance over material might, or simply serves as a narrative device to explain Krishna's non-combative role. The chosen battlefield is the sacred plain of Kurukshetra, a vast, open expanse located near modern-day Haryana. It's a place steeped in spiritual significance, often considered holy ground. The choice of location itself imbues the impending battle with a profound, almost cosmic weight. You can almost feel the ground beneath you, vibrating with the anticipation of countless warriors, chariots, and elephants converging on this fateful spot. The air is thick with the scent of dust, sweat, and impending doom. As the two colossal armies face each other, stretching for miles across the plains, you sense the overwhelming scale of what is about to unfold. The Pandava army, though smaller, is commanded by the seasoned and righteous Drishtadyumna, Draupadi's brother, who has a personal vendetta against Drona. The Kaurava army, vast and imposing, is led by the venerable Bhishma, whose presence alone is a testament to his unmatched prowess and unwavering commitment. Just before the commencement of hostilities, a final, desperate attempt at peace is made. Yudhishthira, ever the one to uphold Dharma, approaches Bhishma and Drona, seeking their blessings before the battle. It's a poignant gesture, a son seeking blessings from his elders, even though they are on the opposing side. It highlights the deeply intertwined family relations that make this war so tragic. Then, in a shocking turn, Arjuna, just as the conch shells are about to sound, drops his bow. He looks across the vast field of Kurukshetra, seeing his revered elders, his beloved cousins, his gurus, and his friends arrayed against him. The realization of what he is about to do, kill his own kin, overwhelms him. He is gripped by an agonizing moral dilemma, a profound crisis of conscience. He questions the purpose of such a war, the value of a kingdom won at such a horrific cost. You feel his despair, his sudden, overwhelming paralysis. It's the moment when the abstract idea of war crashes head-on with the brutal reality of fratricide. This moment of profound doubt, of a hero utterly broken by the impending slaughter of his own family, sets the stage for one of the most profound philosophical dialogues in human history. The Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, acting as Arjuna's charioteer, begins to instruct him, not just in strategy, but in the very nature of duty, action, soul, and divinity. The Battle of Kurukshetra is about to begin. But first, a battle of the soul must be fought within Arjuna himself. The clamor of the armies fades as the divine discourse begins, a quiet yet world-altering conversation. You've just witnessed Arjuna, the peerless archer, paralyzed by an unbearable moral crisis on the precipice of the Kurukshetra war. His bow, Gandiva, has slipped from his grasp, and his heart is filled with despair at the prospect of slaying his own kinsman. It's a moment that transcends mere battlefield anxiety. It's a profound existential dilemma, one that has echoed through the ages. The fate of the battle, and indeed the world, hangs precariously on his decision. It is at this critical juncture that Krishna, Arjuna's charioteer, reveals himself not just as a wise counselor, but as a divine guide, initiating the profound dialogue known as the Bhagavad Gita. Imagine yourself nestled in the chariot with them, the roar of the impending battle fading into a background hum as Krishna begins to speak. He doesn't offer a simple pep talk or a motivational speech. Instead, he delivers a timeless discourse on Dharma, Karma, the nature of the soul, and the path to spiritual liberation. It's a philosophical masterclass, unfolding amidst the most brutal of settings. You feel the weight of his words, each one a profound truth that cuts through Arjuna's confusion and sorrow. Mainstream historical fact. The Bhagavad Gita is one of the most revered and influential texts in Hinduism, offering philosophical insights that extend far beyond its narrative context. Krishna starts by addressing Arjuna's grief and confusion. He explains the eternal nature of the soul, asserting that no one truly dies. The soul merely casts off worn-out bodies like old clothes. He tells Arjuna that as a Kshatriya, a warrior, his duty, dharma, is to fight for righteousness without attachment to the results. This concept of karma yoga, action performed without selfish desire, simply for the sake of duty, is central to Krishna's teaching. He urges Arjuna to transcend his personal grief and act according to his higher duty, emphasizing that inaction in the face of unrighteousness is a greater sin. It's like being told that your job is to clean a really messy room, and even though you don't want to, it's your absolute cosmic duty, and by doing it selflessly, you gain spiritual merit. You hear Krishna explain that the wise mourn neither for the living nor for the dead. He stresses the impermanence of the body and the permanence of the Atman, the true self. He talks about the importance of equanimity in success and failure, pleasure and pain. He then moves into deeper philosophical waters, explaining the different paths to spiritual realization. The path of knowledge, Jnana Yoga, the path of selfless action, Karma Yoga, and the path of devotion, Bhakti Yoga. He subtly weaves in the idea that he himself is the supreme being, the source of all existence, and encourages Arjuna to surrender to him in devotion. Historians still argue whether the Bhagavad Gita was originally an integral part of the Mahabharata or a later philosophical interpolation that was seamlessly woven into the epic. Arjuna, still grappling with the enormity of Krishna's words, asks questions, expressing his doubts and seeking clarification. He probes Krishna about the nature of God, the meaning of action, and the characteristics of a truly wise person. Krishna patiently answers each question, revealing more and more profound truths. He describes the divine manifestations, showing how he is present in all aspects of the universe, from the mightiest mountains to the simplest blade of grass. Then, in a moment that would surely make your jaw drop, Krishna grants Arjuna a divine vision of his Vishwarupa, his cosmic, universal form. You witness it with Arjuna, a terrifying, awe-inspiring manifestation of the entire cosmos, containing all gods, all beings, all time, and all destruction within itself. It is a sight beyond human comprehension, a terrifying and glorious revelation that confirms Krishna's divinity and the profound cosmic scale of the events unfolding. It's like seeing the entire universe, past, present, and future, condensed into a single, overwhelming form, all while seated in a chariot. It's enough to make anyone reconsider their stance on pacifism. Overwhelmed and humbled by the vision, Arjuna begs Krishna to return to his benevolent human form. With his doubts dispelled and his resolve renewed, Arjuna understands his duty. He realizes that the war is not merely a family feud, but a righteous battle, Dharma Yudh, to restore cosmic balance, to uphold justice against the forces of unrighteousness embodied by Duryodhana. Krishna's teachings transform Arjuna from a despairing warrior into a willing instrument of divine will. With Arjuna's spiritual battle won, the conch shells finally sound, signaling the commencement of the war. The Mahabharata war on the sacred fields of Kurukshetra officially begins. You can hear the deafening roars of the armies, the clatter of weapons, the trumpeting of elephants, and the cries of battle. The sheer scale is unimaginable, with millions of warriors arrayed against each other. The Pandavas, now infused with Krishna's wisdom and Arjuna's newfound resolve, face their destiny. The first few days of the war see the Kuru army, under the command of the invincible Bhishma, inflict heavy losses on the Pandavas. You witness the sheer power of Bhishma, his arrows raining down like relentless hail, making him virtually unstoppable. He fights with the ferocity of a lion, proving why he is considered one of the greatest warriors of all time, even though his heart is truly with the Pandavas. The initial days are marked by grand strategies and devastating clashes, setting the tone for the bloodiest conflict known to history. The war has begun, and there's no turning back. You've just been privy to the profound spiritual awakening of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the divine wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita settling his moral turmoil. Now, with conch shells blaring and war cries echoing, you are thrust into the brutal reality of the Kurukshetra war itself. This isn't just a clash of armies, it's a 17-day saga of heroism, betrayal, immense loss, and the relentless march of destiny. You'll witness the initial thrusts, the grand strategies, and the first major casualties of this epic conflict. The war begins with the venerable Bhishma leading the Kaurava forces as their supreme commander. You see him, a towering figure even in old age, fighting with an almost supernatural prowess. Despite his deep affection for the Pandavas, especially Arjuna, his terrible vow binds him to the throne of Hastinapura and, by extension, to Duryodhana. His loyalty is absolute, even if his heart aches. He promises Duryodhana that he will not kill any of the Pandavas, but will ensure that the Pandava army faces crushing defeats. And indeed, for the first 10 days, Bhishma's might is overwhelming. You watch in awe as he cuts a swath through the Pandava ranks, seemingly invincible, his arrows forming an impenetrable barrier. Mainstream historical fact. Chariots were a significant component of ancient warfare in various civilizations, providing mobility and a platform for archers and spearmen. The Pandavas, despite their righteousness, struggle against Bhishma's sheer power. Day after day they face heavy losses, and despair begins to creep into their ranks. Krishna, acting as Arjuna's charioteer, continually urges Arjuna to fight with his full might, reminding him of his dharma. However, Arjuna hesitates to fight his beloved grandfather with full aggression, a conflict that frustrates Krishna. You feel the tension in their chariot, the urgency in Krishna's voice. On the 9th day, As Bhishma continues his relentless assault, inflicting devastating casualties, Krishna, unable to bear the sight of the Pandavas' suffering and Arjuna's hesitation, breaks his own vow of non-combat. He leaps from the chariot, wheel in hand, ready to strike Bhishma down himself. Arjuna, shocked, quickly intervenes, stopping Krishna and reaffirming his commitment to fight. This dramatic incident serves to regalvanize Arjuna and reminds him of the divine stakes. Historians still argue whether Krishna's breaking of his vow signifies his ultimate devotion to Dharma, even above his personal pledges, or serves as a narrative device to spur Arjuna into decisive action. Realizing they cannot defeat Bhishma directly as long as he chooses to fight, the Pandavas seek Krishna's counsel. Krishna reveals the secret of Bhishma's vulnerability. Bhishma himself had vowed never to fight a woman, or one who was once a woman. This points them to Shikhandi, a warrior in the Pandava army who was born female and later transformed into a male. This is a complex, almost tragic loophole in Bhishma's code of honor. On the 10th day, Arjuna positions Shikhandi in front of his chariot, using him as a shield against Bhishma. Seeing Shikhandi, Bhishma drops his weapons, refusing to fight. This tactical move, though controversial, allows Arjuna to unleash a volley of arrows at his venerable grandfather. You witness the tragic sight of Bhishma, pierced by countless arrows, falling from his chariot. But he doesn't die. Due to a boon, he has the power to choose the time of his own death. He lies on a bed of arrows, enduring immense pain, but using his last moments to impart profound wisdom and teachings on Dharma, statecraft, and duty to Yudhishthira and the other Pandavas. It's a moment of immense pathos, the death of a truly great, yet tragically bound, figure. With Bhishma incapacitated, Drona assumes command of the Kaurava army. Drona, Arjuna's guru, is another formidable warrior, and his leadership brings a renewed ferocity to the Kaurava side. The war intensifies further. Drona, driven by his long-held desire for revenge against King Drupada of Panchala, Draupadi's father, remember, targets him specifically. You see the personal animosities playing out amidst the larger conflict. On the 15th day, Drona's destructive power becomes almost unbearable for the Pandavas. He creates intricate and deadly battle formations, like the Chakravyuha, a complex rotating circular formation which only a few warriors, like Arjuna, know how to penetrate. Drona is seemingly unstoppable, his arrows raining down on the Pandava army. The Pandavas realize that Drona, like Bhishma, must be disarmed through unconventional means. Krishna devises a cunning plan. Knowing Drona's immense love for his son, Ashwathama, Krishna suggests a deception. A loud proclamation is made that Ashwathama is dead. Bhima kills an elephant, also named Ashwathama, and loudly announces its demise. Drona, distraught, seeks confirmation from Yudhishthira, knowing Yudhishthira would never utter a lie. Yudhishthira, instructed by Krishna, confirms that Ashwathama is dead, but then very softly adds, the elephant. The final part of the sentence is drowned out by the blowing of a conch shell orchestrated by Krishna, ensuring Drona only hears the devastating first half. You feel the morally dubious nature of this act, a stark reminder that even the righteous sometimes resort to deceit in war. Overwhelmed by grief and believing his son is truly dead, Drona drops his weapons and sits in meditation on his chariot. Seizing this moment of vulnerability, Drishtadyumna, fulfilling his vow of vengeance, decapitates Drona. It's a shocking, brutal end for the great guru, a moment that solidifies the moral ambiguities of the war. With the fall of Drona, the Kaurava army suffers another immense blow, and the war moves into its final, most intense phase, stripping away more layers of nobility and plunging deeper into the dark heart of conflict. You've just witnessed the brutal, almost Machiavellian fall of Drona, a tragic victim of deception on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. His death marks a turning point, signaling that the war is spiraling into an even darker, more ruthless phase. The moral lines are blurring, and the sheer desperation for victory is pushing warriors to actions that would have been unthinkable just days before. You now brace yourself for the most intense and devastating period of the conflict, as the war reaches its apex, shattering lives and forever altering the landscape of the Kuru dynasty. With Bhishma incapacitated and Drona fallen, Karna is finally appointed the supreme commander of the Kaurava army. This is the moment he has long craved, the chance to prove his prowess, and crucially, to defeat Arjuna, his lifelong rival. Karna, remember, is Kunti's firstborn, abandoned at birth and raised as a charioteer's son, a secret known only to a few. His bitterness over his perceived low status and his unwavering loyalty to Duryodhana make him a formidable, almost tragic figure. You feel the surge of his ambition, his burning desire for glory. Mainstream historical fact. The concept of social status and its impact on opportunities and recognition was a pervasive aspect of many ancient societies, often determining one's place and destiny. Karna enters the battle with ferocious intensity. He is a warrior of immense skill, matched only by Arjuna, and his presence immediately shifts the tide of the war. He inflicts heavy losses on the Pandava army, showcasing his mastery of celestial weapons and his unparalleled archery. You witness the ferocity of their clashes, the air thick with flying arrows and the thud of powerful blows. He vows to kill Arjuna, or die trying, making their eventual confrontation the most anticipated duel of the war. It's like watching two unstoppable forces hurtle towards each other, knowing the collision will be cataclysmic. During Karna's leadership, one particularly devastating event occurs: the death of Abhimanyu, Arjuna's valiant and gifted son. Abhimanyu is a master of warfare, having learned the art of breaking into the Chakravyuha, the complex circular formation, from his father while still in the womb. However, he doesn't know how to break out of it. In a desperate tactical move by the Kauravas, Abhimanyu is lured into the formation. Once inside, he fights with astonishing courage and skill, single-handedly defeating many great Kaurava warriors. But the Kaurava commanders, led by Drona, use unrighteous tactics, attacking him simultaneously from all sides, breaking his chariot and disarming him before finally killing him while he is weaponless. You feel the profound injustice and sorrow of this moment, the loss of a young, promising hero through deceitful means. It's a truly heartbreaking death, emphasizing the war's increasing moral degradation. Historians still argue whether the detailed descriptions of specific battle formations like the Chakravyuha are historical accounts of ancient military strategy or literary flourishes, enhancing the epic's drama and highlighting a warrior's unique skills. Arjuna is consumed by grief and rage upon learning of his son's unrighteous killing. He vows to kill Jayadratha, the Sindhu king who had prevented the other Pandavas from coming to Abhimanyu's aid before sunset the next day, or immolate himself. This vow sets up an incredibly tense and dramatic day of battle. You feel the weight of Arjuna's oath, knowing the impossible challenge before him. The next day, Jayadratha is heavily guarded by the Kaurava army, determined to protect him from Arjuna's wrath. Arjuna fights with unparalleled fury, cutting through countless warriors. As sunset approaches and Jayadratha remains protected, Krishna uses his divine power. He creates an illusion of sunset, making Jayadratha believe he is safe. When Jayadratha momentarily drops his guard, celebrating Arjuna's supposed failure, Krishna lifts the illusion, and Arjuna, seizing the moment, unleashes an arrow that decapitates Jayadratha. It's a moment of divine cunning, another instance where Krishna pushes the boundaries of Dharma for the greater cause, leaving you to ponder the complex morality of victory. The war continues, marked by individual duels of immense power and skill. The long-awaited confrontation between Arjuna and Karna finally occurs. You witness their epic clash. Two of the greatest archers in history, each unleashing celestial weapons with devastating power. Their battle is fierce and prolonged, a testament to their equal skill. But ultimately, due to a curse on Karna and Krishna's subtle guidance, Karna's chariot wheel gets stuck in the mud. As he attempts to free it, Arjuna, at Krishna's urging, strikes him down. Karna, the tragic hero, dies, his true identity as Kunti's first son revealed only after his death, leaving a trail of profound sorrow and regret for Kunti and the Pandavas. It's a moment of heartbreaking irony, a secret that could have averted the war, exposed too late. The war also claims the lives of many other great warriors. Duryodhana's most loyal and fierce brother, Dushasana, is killed by Bhima, who fulfills his terrible oath from the dice game, tearing open Dushasana's chest and drinking his blood. You feel the visceral horror, the raw vengeance of this act, a promise grimly delivered. This act, while horrifying, serves as a brutal retribution for Draupadi's humiliation. The war drags on, a relentless grind of death and destruction. The battlefield is littered with bodies, and the air is thick with the cries of the wounded and the lamentations of the living. On the 18th and final day, the scale of destruction is almost absolute. Only a handful of warriors remain standing on both sides. The Pandava army, though victorious, is decimated, their triumph overshadowed by immense loss. The Kauravas are virtually annihilated, with only a few survivors. The cost of ambition and hatred is laid bare on the blood-soaked fields of Kurukshetra. The war ends not with a cheer, but with a profound silence, a heavy quiet born from the immense, unspeakable sorrow of the survivors. You've just witnessed the brutal, soul-searing culmination of the Kurukshetra war, an 18-day cataclysm that left millions dead and the Kuru dynasty in ruins. The battlefield, once teeming with life and the thunder of chariots, is now a silent, gruesome tableau of death. The air, thick with the stench of iron and despair, whispers of countless lost lives. While the Pandavas stand as the nominal victors, there is no joy in their triumph, only an overwhelming sense of loss and profound grief. This is the heavy, agonizing period of post-war grief, where the true cost of victory becomes agonizingly clear. Imagine the survivors trudging across the desolate battlefield. You see Yudhishthira, the righteous king, utterly broken by the carnage. His victory feels like an unbearable defeat. He is consumed by sorrow, questioning the very purpose of his adherence to Dharma if it led to such widespread destruction and the loss of all his kin. He sees the faces of his fallen relatives, his gurus, his cousins, all those he loved and respected, and the weight of their deaths presses down on him like a physical burden. Mainstream historical fact. The psychological toll of warfare, including survivors' guilt and profound grief, is a well-documented phenomenon across human history. His brothers, too, are deeply affected. Bhima, his vengeance fulfilled, now feels the hollow emptiness of his acts. Arjuna, the valiant archer, is plagued by remorse, haunted by the spectre of all those he personally slew. Even the stoic Nakula and Sahadeva carry the heavy burden of their losses. Draupadi, though her honor was avenged, weeps for the sons she lost, for the destruction of her family, and for the sheer, brutal futility of it all. You feel their collective despair, a thick, suffocating cloud that hangs over the devastated land. Dhritarashtra, the blind king, whose love for his sons allowed this war to unfold, is now consumed by unimaginable grief. He has lost all 100 of his sons, his grandsons, and virtually his entire lineage. You see him, a broken man, lamenting his tragic choices, his once blind eyes now metaphorical windows to an even deeper, soul-crushing darkness. Gandhari, his devoted wife, also mourns deeply, cursing Krishna for allowing such destruction, even while acknowledging her son's wickedness. It's a powerful moment of raw, human suffering, transcending the divine and the heroic. One particularly poignant scene you will witness is the ritual offering of water to the departed souls on the banks of the Ganges. As Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, performs the rites, she makes a devastating revelation. Karna was her firstborn son, her eldest, abandoned at birth due to unfortunate circumstances, a secret she had kept hidden for decades. The Pandavas are utterly shattered by this truth. You feel their shock, their profound regret. They had fought and killed their own elder brother, the one who should have been their leader, their protector. Yudhishthira is particularly distraught, realizing the immense Dharma violation that occurred, fueled by ignorance. It's a cruel twist of fate, a secret that, if revealed earlier, might have averted the entire war. Historians still argue whether the late revelation of Karna's parentage is purely a dramatic narrative device, or if it reflects deeper societal themes of caste, abandonment, and the tragic consequences of concealed identities. The Pandavas are faced with the daunting task of ruling a shattered kingdom. The capital, Hastinapura, is mourning. The victory feels hollow, tainted by so much blood and sorrow. Yudhishthira, in particular, is reluctant to ascend the throne, feeling the immense guilt of having overseen such destruction. He expresses a desire to renounce the world and live as an ascetic, finding peace in solitude. You can feel his profound weariness, his longing for an escape from the burden of kingship. Krishna, ever the guide, steps in once more. He, along with Vyasa and other sages, counsels Yudhishthira, explaining the necessity of taking up his duty, his dharma as a king. They remind him that the war, though tragic, was a dharma yudh, a righteous war, to cleanse the land of unrighteousness and restore order. They emphasize that neglecting his duty now would be a greater sin than fighting the war itself. They tell him that true righteousness isn't about avoiding conflict, but about upholding justice when all other avenues have failed. It's like telling someone who's just finished a marathon that they now have to run another one, but this time it's a mental and spiritual endurance race. It is during this period that the dying Bhishma, lying on his bed of arrows, imparts his final, timeless instructions to Yudhishthira. He speaks for days, offering profound wisdom on statecraft, governance, dharma, justice, morality, and the duties of a king. These teachings, collectively known as the Bhishma Parva in the Mahabharata, are a testament to his profound knowledge and a final act of service to his lineage. You feel the weight of his words, a dying sage pouring out a lifetime of wisdom for the benefit of the new king. After imparting all his knowledge and seeing the winter solstice arrive, Bhishma, at his chosen moment, peacefully leaves his mortal coil. His death marks the passing of an era, a final farewell to the old guard. Finally, after much persuasion, Yudhishthira reluctantly agrees to ascend the throne of Hastinapura. He is crowned king, not with joy and celebration, but with a heavy heart, surrounded by the ghosts of the fallen. His reign begins under the shadow of immense sorrow, a stark reminder of the immense cost of the war. The immediate task now is not conquest, but healing, not expansion, but restoration. You feel the deep, pervasive sadness that settles over the kingdom, a collective trauma that will take generations to overcome. The ultimate victory has been achieved, but at a price that leaves no one truly victorious. You've just witnessed the profound sorrow and reluctant ascension of Yudhishthira to the throne, a victory so costly it feels like a defeat. The air in Hastinapura is thick with mourning, and the immediate aftermath of the war is less about celebration and more about the daunting task of healing a shattered kingdom and a traumatized populace. You now observe the Pandavas grappling with the immense responsibility of rebuilding, both physically and spiritually, and establishing a reign founded on the principles of Dharma. This is the arduous beginning of Yudhishthira's reign, where righteousness must contend with the lingering shadows of conflict. Imagine the sheer scale of the task facing Yudhishthira. The land is devastated, its population decimated, and its spirit broken. The capital, Hastinapura, while physically intact, is a city draped in somber remembrance. The primary challenge isn't external threats, it's internal reconciliation, finding a way to govern with justice and compassion after such a horrific, fratricidal war. You feel the immense weight on Yudhishthira's shoulders, a burden far heavier than any crown. Mainstream historical fact. Post-war periods often involve significant challenges in governance, economic recovery, and social reintegration, irrespective of the victors. Yudhishthira's greatest challenge is overcoming his own deep-seated grief and guilt. He struggles with the concept of kingship when it was attained through such immense bloodshed. He often retreats into melancholy, questioning the righteousness of his actions. His brothers, Bhima and Arjuna, along with Krishna and the sage Vyasa, constantly counsel him, reminding him of his duty to rule and restore Dharma. They impress upon him that the sacrifice of so many lives would be in vain if he abandoned his responsibility now. It's like trying to convince someone who's just run a marathon to immediately start organizing the next Olympic Games, but with existential dread as their primary training partner. One of the first acts of his reign is to establish order and justice. Yudhishthira, with the guidance of Vidura and the continued, though less direct, influence of Krishna, begins to administer the kingdom with fairness and equity. He prioritizes the welfare of his subjects, striving to alleviate their suffering and rebuild their lives. You see him holding court, listening patiently to grievances, and issuing judgments that reflect his unwavering commitment to righteousness. He understands that true governance is about serving the people, not simply holding power. The presence of the blind King Dhritarashtra and Queen Gandhari in the palace presents a unique challenge. They are the Pandavas' elders, but also the parents of their sworn enemies, responsible indirectly for the war. Yudhishthira, ever respectful, treats them with the utmost reverence and care, despite their past. He ensures they live comfortably and honorably in the palace, a testament to his noble character and commitment to family values, even with those who caused him so much pain. This act of compassion helps to slowly, painstakingly begin the process of healing within the shattered Kuru family. Historians still argue whether the post-war generosity shown to defeated royal families was a common practice in ancient times or a reflection of the specific emphasis on Dharma in the Mahabharata narrative. A significant event during Yudhishthira's reign is the performance of the Ashwamedha Yajna, or horse sacrifice. This ancient Vedic ritual was performed by powerful emperors to assert their sovereignty and purify their kingdom. It involves releasing a specially consecrated horse to wander freely for a year, accompanied by Arjuna and a retinue of warriors. Any kingdom through which the horse passes without challenge acknowledges the supremacy of the performing emperor. If challenged, a battle ensues. You witness Arjuna leading this procession, winning many minor battles and receiving tribute from various kings. It's a grand display of renewed imperial power, a way to re-establish the Kuru Empire's dominance and symbolize the new era of Yudhishthira's rule. The successful completion of the yajna brings immense prosperity and stability to the kingdom, signifying a return to order and a new golden age under the Pandavas. It's like a massive victory parade combined with a nationwide rebranding exercise. Despite the prosperity and peace, Yudhishthira's melancholy never fully dissipates. He remains haunted by the war. Even though he rules justly and wisely, The burden of the past weighs heavily on him. He seeks solace in spiritual discussions, constantly striving to understand the deeper meaning of Dharma and the purpose of suffering. You observe his quiet contemplation, his internal quest for peace, amidst the external trappings of power. After some years, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and Kunti, the Pandavas' mother, who also feels immense remorse for Karna's death and the overall destruction, decide to retire to the forest as ascetics, seeking spiritual liberation. They desire to live a life of penance and meditation, shedding the burdens of their past. Yudhishthira, deeply saddened by their departure, reluctantly grants their wish. You watch them leave, old and weary, seeking peace in the quiet embrace of nature. This departure marks another transition, a quiet shedding of the old generation's grief. After several years of severe austerities, they perish in a forest fire, fulfilling their path of renunciation. Vidura, the wise and righteous half-brother, also renounces the world and joins them, eventually dying peacefully in the forest, merging his soul with Yudhishthira's. Sanjaya, the charioteer, who narrated the entire war to Dhritarashtra, also leaves to live an ascetic life. The old figures are slowly fading from the stage, leaving the Pandavas to shoulder the full weight of the kingdom. Yudhishthira's reign continues for many years, marked by peace, prosperity, and unwavering adherence to Dharma. He ensures that justice is upheld, learning is promoted, and the welfare of his subjects remains paramount. The kingdom slowly but surely recovers from the devastating war, a testament to the Pandavas' righteous rule and the healing power of time. You see the land flourish once more, the scars of war slowly fading, replaced by the vibrant hum of a revitalized society. It's a period of stability, a much-needed respite after the preceding storm, preparing the way for their eventual, final journey. You've just witnessed Yudhishthira's long and righteous reign, a period of meticulous rebuilding, and a quiet, steadfast adherence to Dharma that brought peace and prosperity back to a shattered land. The scars of Kurukshetra have begun to fade, replaced by the gentle hum of a recovered society. Now, as time marches onward, you approach the twilight of the Pandavas' lives, a poignant and deeply symbolic journey that speaks to their spiritual culmination and the ultimate destiny of mortals. This is the period of their ascension to heaven, a final, epic pilgrimage. After many decades of ruling Hastinapura with unparalleled justice and wisdom, the Pandavas sense that their earthly mission is drawing to a close. Their kingdom is stable, their duties fulfilled, and the lingering echoes of the war have softened into distant memories. You feel the profound serenity that settles upon them, a quiet acceptance of their mortality and a readiness for their ultimate spiritual journey. It's like reaching the end of a very long, challenging project and knowing it's time for a well-deserved cosmic retirement. Mainstream historical fact: the concept of renunciation and embarking on a spiritual journey in old age, known as vanaprastha and sannyasa, was an established phase of life in ancient Indian traditions. Yudhishthira, with the unanimous consent of his brothers, decides it is time to abdicate the throne. He crowns Parikshit, Arjuna's grandson, the son of the valiant Abhimanyu, who was killed in the war, as the new king of Hastinapura. Parikshit, though young, is virtuous and capable, ensuring the continuity of the Kuru lineage. You see the peaceful transfer of power, a stark contrast to the violent battles that once defined their ascension. It's a quiet, dignified handing over of the torch. Having relinquished all earthly ties and responsibilities, the Pandavas, along with Draupadi, begin their great journey, known as the Mahaprasthanika Parva. They turn their backs on the glittering city of Hastinapura and set off towards the Himalayas, intending to ascend to heaven in their mortal bodies. You feel the symbolic weight of this pilgrimage, a complete detachment from the material world, a single-minded focus on the spiritual. They abandon all their precious possessions, wearing simple ascetic clothes, walking without looking back, their gaze fixed on the distant snow-capped peaks. It's the ultimate minimalist retreat. As they trudge through the harsh, desolate terrain of the mountains, one by one, they begin to fall. Draupadi is the first to fall. Bhima questions why someone as virtuous as Draupadi, who suffered so much, should fall. Yudhishthira, ever the embodiment of Dharma, explains that she fell due to a slight partiality she showed towards Arjuna over her other husbands, a subtle flaw in her righteousness. You feel the harshness of this divine judgment, a reminder that even the smallest imperfections are weighed in the cosmic balance. Next to fall is Sahadeva, due to his pride in his wisdom. Then Nakula, due to his pride in his beauty. Then Arjuna, due to his pride in his martial skills and his boastfulness about his prowess. Finally, Bhima collapses due to his pride in his strength and his excessive indulgence in food. With each fall, Yudhishthira offers a reason, revealing the subtle imperfections that, despite their immense virtues, prevented them from reaching heaven in their physical forms. It's a somber, humbling procession, highlighting that even the greatest heroes are not without their human flaws. Historians still argue whether the sequential fall of the Pandavas in this manner is a literal narrative of their physical deaths or a metaphorical representation of shedding worldly attachments and ego before spiritual liberation. Only Yudhishthira continues, steadfast and unwavering, accompanied by a lone, loyal dog. You see his profound resilience, his unyielding commitment to Dharma, even when faced with the deaths of all his loved ones. He walks without looking back, without remorse or regret for those who fell, understanding that their fates were a result of their own karmic imperfections. Finally, Yudhishthira reaches the gates of heaven, where he is greeted by Lord Indra, the king of the gods. Indra welcomes him, but tells him he must leave the dog behind. Yudhishthira, however, refuses. He argues that he cannot abandon a creature that has shown him such loyalty, upholding the Dharma of compassion even at the threshold of paradise. This act of unwavering compassion towards the humble dog proves his ultimate righteousness. At this point, the dog reveals himself to be Dharma, the god of righteousness himself, testing Yudhishthira's unwavering commitment. You feel the profound significance of this moment, Yudhishthira's final, ultimate test. Yudhishthira enters heaven, expecting to see his brothers and Draupadi. However, he is initially led to a place filled with the Kauravas and Karna, surrounded by glory. Confused and disturbed, he asks where his own brothers and Draupadi are. He is then shown a horrifying hellish realm where his beloved brothers and Draupadi are suffering. Overwhelmed by distress, he refuses to stay in heaven without them, choosing instead to join his family in hell, believing that suffering with them is better than enjoying paradise alone. You feel his profound loyalty, his willingness to share their burden. This, too, is revealed to be an illusion, a final test by the gods. It is shown that the Pandavas and Draupadi had to experience a brief period in hell to atone for their minor sins, like Yudhishthira's slight deception regarding Ashwatthama or Bhima's violence. After this brief purification, they, along with Karna and the Kauravas, who also ascended after their atonement for their sins, finally join the divine realm, transcending their earthly forms. You witness their ultimate liberation, merging with the celestial beings and ultimately with the divine, signifying the culmination of their mortal existence. The narrative of their ascension is a powerful, symbolic ending to their earthly journey, reinforcing the epic's profound lessons about karma, dharma, and the ultimate destiny of the soul. It provides a sense of cosmic justice and spiritual fulfillment, even after such immense earthly suffering. The Pandavas, having played their part in the great cosmic drama, finally find their peace. You've just witnessed the Pandavas' profound and symbolic ascension, shedding their earthly imperfections to merge with the divine. It's an ending that brings a sense of spiritual completion to their individual journeys. But the Mahabharata, as you've undoubtedly gathered, isn't just a story about 5 brothers and a war. It's an incredibly vast and complex tapestry, woven with countless narratives, philosophical insights, and moral dilemmas. You now turn your attention to the epic itself and its enduring legacy, understanding that its influence far transcends the ancient plains of Kurukshetra. This is the contemplation of the enduring legacy of this timeless epic. Imagine sitting by a crackling fire, the glow illuminating ancient scrolls as you reflect on the sheer scale of what you've just experienced. The Mahabharata is not merely the longest epic poem ever written. It is often described as an encyclopedia of ancient Indian life. Mainstream historical fact. The Mahabharata is approximately 10 times the length of the Iliad and the Odyssey combined, making it the longest poem known to exist. It contains within its verses not just the narrative of the Kuru War, but also extensive discourses on philosophy, law, religion, ethics, politics, and the art of governance. It's like a colossal library disguised as a story, offering wisdom on virtually every facet of human existence. You could spend a lifetime poring over its layers and still discover something new. Its core message revolves around Dharma, that intricate concept of righteousness, duty, and cosmic law. You've seen how consistently it was challenged, debated, and ultimately upheld throughout the narrative, from Bhishma's unwavering vow to Yudhishthira's agonizing moral quandaries. The epic constantly explores what it means to live a life aligned with Dharma, even when it demands immense sacrifice or seems to lead to terrible consequences. It asks you, the listener, to constantly question your own understanding of right and wrong, especially when faced with conflicting loyalties or seemingly impossible choices. It's a philosophical gym for your brain, constantly pushing you to lift heavier moral questions. The characters within the Mahabharata are not one-dimensional heroes or villains. You've encountered their complexities. The blind king Dhritarashtra, paralyzed by love for his wicked son. The benevolent Bhishma, bound by an impossible vow. The arrogant Duryodhana, consumed by envy. The wise Krishna, who acts both as a divine guide and a pragmatic strategist, sometimes bending rules for a higher purpose. Historians still argue whether the complex, morally ambiguous characters in the Mahabharata reflect a sophisticated understanding of human psychology in ancient India, or were designed to present nuanced ethical dilemmas for didactic purposes. You see their flaws, their triumphs, their moments of weakness, and their profound strength. They are intensely human, making their struggles and lessons resonate across millennia. The epic is also a profound meditation on the nature of war. It doesn't glorify bloodshed, but meticulously details its horrors and devastating consequences. You felt the immense sorrow of the survivors, the deep regret that permeates even the victorious side. It shows that even a war fought for righteousness extracts an unbearable toll, leaving behind deep psychological and societal scars. It's a stark reminder that violence, no matter how justified, always leaves a trail of tears. It asks you to consider the cycles of vengeance and the possibility or impossibility of breaking them. Beyond its philosophical and moral lessons, the Mahabharata has permeated the very fabric of Indian culture. Its stories are told and retold in countless forms: folk tales, plays, dances, songs, and even modern television series and films. Its characters are household names, their dilemmas discussed and debated in everyday conversations. Concepts like karma and dharma, while originating in Vedic texts, are popularized and deeply embedded in the collective consciousness through the epic's vivid narratives. It's the ultimate cultural touchstone, a story everyone knows, even if they've never read a single verse. The story also offers insights into ancient Indian society, its political structures, social customs, family dynamics, and the role of spiritual leaders. While a mythic narrative, it reflects an underlying cultural reality, providing a window into a bygone era. You get a sense of the grandeur of ancient kingdoms, the complexities of royal courts, and the everyday lives of its people, even if those people are occasionally interacting with gods. It's like a historical documentary, but with a lot more divine intervention and dramatically high stakes. Perhaps the most profound aspect of the Mahabharata's legacy is its universality. Despite being rooted in ancient Indian culture, its themes are timeless and resonate with humanity across all cultures and eras. The struggles of duty versus desire, loyalty versus justice, family bonds versus moral imperatives. These are questions that you, and indeed all people, continue to grapple with. The epic offers no easy answers, but it provides a rich framework for contemplation, encouraging you to engage with these questions deeply. It serves as a mirror, reflecting your own moral compass and inviting you to consider your place in the grand tapestry of life. As you conclude your journey through this monumental epic, you are left not just with a story, but with a profound understanding of the human condition, its enduring conflicts, and its eternal quest for meaning. The Mahabharata isn't just history. It's a living, breathing testament to the human spirit, a narrative that continues to teach, challenge, and inspire, reminding you that the greatest battles are often fought not on a battlefield, but within the confines of the human heart.